Citizens, good, private people who wouldn't ordinarily dream of being activists are marching in the streets, as they did just last week, to protest against government inaction on persistently high crime rates. Last year, Queensland had the highest number of victims of crime in the country. It's up 15%. It's the dubious holder of the title of car theft capital of the country, with assault crimes up more than 60% and sexual offences up 14%, robbery up over 18% and domestic violence breaches up more than 16% in just a year. This is not some media beat-up. And yet, the Labor member for Capalaba on Brisbane's Bayside described it that way. But don't take my word for it. After all, I guess I'm a member of the media these days. Take the word of the many people who are working outside of law enforcement to try and keep their communities safe. And some of their messages are on the screen just here. The really scary part is, well, there's a lot of messages here, but they're just a drop in the ocean. And it's just one suburb, one middle-class Brisbane suburb that's reflected here. Replicate this kind of experience statewide, and we are talking about a disaster of epic proportions. So, to the member for Capalaba who thinks it's just a media beat-up, ask Russell and Anne Field, who lost their son Matthew and his pregnant fiancée Kate Ledbetter and their unborn son to a 17-year-old in an out-of-control stolen car, high on drugs. Ask them whether it's just a beat-up.
It's very hard for us and other victims of juvenile crime. It's a little bit disappointing. Nothing seems to happen, no matter what. Like we said here some time ago, and it's been 2 years now since Kate and Matt and Miles were killed on this corner, and nothing appears to be happening. And we've said in the past that if something concrete was done 2 years ago, when we called for it and others, some of these current offences may not have happened.
Sadly, Mr. and Mrs. Field and the family they love, they're not the only victims. There's far too many for me to be able to list. Well, this week, the same MP, Don Brown, tried to blame youth crime on, wait for it, John Howard, a long bow if ever I've seen one, for his efforts to encourage more Australians to have children. Well, it's a bit of a clunker. The uncomfortable fact is that these awful crimes are the product of Labor policy that's watered down youth justice laws, reduced the likelihood of meaningful penalties being imposed for crimes, under-resourced diversionary programs that undermine parental and community early intervention for people at risk of offending. It doesn't help that the justice system is ill-served by a forensic and scientific services system that the Sofronoff inquiry held was affected by grave maladministration involving dishonesty, leading to the need to revisit outcomes in over 7,000 cases. It's good to see some of those being revisited now. And that's in addition to the backlog that a magistrate said in May was 10,000 cases long. Well, no wonder victims aren't getting justice.